His name is Harley Davidson. Yeah.
Hello.
James G. Hughes, good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning. Another day.
Yeah, another opportunity. Harley.
Charlie boy. He is up and doing. He had a little Thanksgiving dinner. It looks like he barfed it up. He can't stand such elegance. Talking about it. He doesn't want to go in there now this year. I don't know.
Jimmy is afraid to keep him in his room because he would eat him up. It's dangerous.
Hello. Hello.
There's been more than one person tried that. You can't teach him anything. Oh, Harley says he's absolutely inflexible. And I asked Divine Mother, why you send such an inflexible creature that you can't learn anything? Why you send him here to my door? And then she answered, says, well, that's because he's just a reflection of yourself.
No, they're not going to leave till about 4:30. They're going to go on an outing. Anyway, I'm sure they appreciate your company. It's some kind of a thing about getting maintenance organized, but whatever. It's a place where Bob goes and King goes. So, I thought I was going to die, but I don't know if I'm going to take a case or something, right?
Yeah, they have English.
Hello, honey.
Yeah.
Hello.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, but anyway, yeah, I had to do a little lumber later and get ready to go to lumber yard and pick up some stuff.
Well, did you have some of those pancakes?
Yeah, they had 3. Had 3 of them.
Pretty good, huh?
Yeah, they're good.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. I just might go over and have a little find something. I'm not very hungry after yesterday. Well, turn that light off. You're not using it now, are you? There we are. And looks like everybody's happy, huh? And
That's my little car there. The one without the cover on it here.
yeah, the little
This little green one.
green one.
Yeah.
Isn't that great? Yeah. What kind is it?
It's a Geo Metro.
You know that the European cars were all pretty small in my time, and then the American cars were so overbuilt, and then they began to get just the same.
Yeah.
There for a while, and now all the darn cars look just like the Japanese cars. Man, there isn't anything to me that any body styles that of course I like things like campers and things like that, and I don't see anything very unique anymore. They all just look very much alike.
Yeah.
But I guess they're high performance. They perform real good on
It's a great area.
Pacific Grove. Yeah, I've heard of that town. Yeah, that's right up on Monterey. Oh, that's beautiful country.
It's nice up there.
I haven't been there for years now. I've been to Northern. I've just been here. I haven't been anywhere hardly at all, except I go to Los Angeles once in a great while.
Yeah.
And of course we go to San Diego a few times every year.
You'll just go out with the trips, Jimmy, eh?
Yeah, I go out there generally with an outing trip, or sometimes I had to go on business to get some parts or something. But
Do you have any friends back in your home state?
Yeah,
Do you hear from them?
yeah, that's what I have to do now is go write a bunch of Christmas cards. I still correspond with quite a few people at Christmas.
Is it Kansas that you're from?
Yeah. Kansas, yeah.
Which town?
Well, the name of the town is Marquette.
Is that where you were born?
Yeah, it's a little village, and it was not far from the county seat, which is McPherson. That's where Brahman Charlie Lee was born, in the McPherson. It's just 20 miles.
Oh, really? Ron Charlie was born in Kansas?
Yeah.
All right.
20. He was born in the county seat. What is, it's like the capital of the county. Those old states are divided up into just square counties, and used to be, they were just about as far as a horse could go in one day, and that would be about as big as a county was, and then you'd have the next county like that, because then all the life came from the town in the middle of the county, and
Oh, I see.
that's the way it was divided in the early days. And so you've got ever so many. Like Kansas is a rectangle. It's just 200 miles by 400 miles. And it's all laid out in just square
Straight lines.
Yeah, it's all square. And there's just so many counties. I've forgotten how many. I think over 100 counties there, and they all have a county seat. So McPherson, it would be just like if I was born here and Brahman Charlie Lee was born in Valley Center, say.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, that's yeah. Yeah, that's the same deal. But yeah, I go back there every 5 years.
Oh, yeah? When were you there last?
Well, it's been 2 years ago now.
2 years ago?
I go back there to my class reunion I went on my 50th and my 55th high school class reunion, and then on the 60th, that was 2 years ago, was the 60 years since I graduated from high school.
There'll be a lot of them have taken leave since then, huh?
Not too many left. In fact, just last year, two of the boys, so there's only 3 of us boys left in the class.
Really?
Yeah, and the girls, of course, they live longer. There must be about 5 of them. And actually, the guy that you would least expect, that lived the he was had a hard time when he was a kid. He was sick, and then he was a chronic bedwetter. He couldn't keep from, and everybody avoided him because he always smelled bad. And he in going to high school, he didn't make very good grades, and he was a hard man. Well, he got out of school just in time for World War II, and he hit it right on the nose. And he was in the landings, down in Anzio, down in Italy, and he got shot up pretty bad, and he had a very hard time in the service. It looked like he was simply really a hard luck man, but he came back and he regained his health. He got patched up in a veterans hospital, and then he came back home again, and he went to a neighboring town, a little larger town, where they have a country club, whatnot, and married a rich widow. And then he didn't have to do. He spent years and years nothing but out there on the golf course, It's widow, and he years and years. Every time we go back to see him, he looked more prosperous and carefree, And he spent years, and now he's old. See, he's like us. He's getting up close to 80, and when I went back we had this last reunion. This was the 65th reunion. Why, there was about 4 of us there, I guess 4 of the boys, and a couple, see, they couldn't come. They were in rest home, and they both died. See, just just last year, and so it leaves only 3. And this other man, very good friend and neighbor of mine, he has had a double heart
bypass.
And so he's in bed a lot. He isn't.
He's not happy.
No, he's not jumping around at all. His wife's a nurse, so she takes care of him, and I'm still kicking a little bit, but we go back and see him. Man, he's just like a schoolboy. His rich wife died, and I guess she left him the money, and he's moved down to a nice big town there in Kansas, and he's got a live-in girlfriend lives with him, and man, they take trips all over Europe, and then he spends the rest of the time out on the, heck, he's going to outlive us all. See, you never know. You never know.
So how old are you now, Jimmy, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, Master says we don't dare tell, but the old body house here is getting close to 80.
Are you 79 or 80, 78?
Just coming on to 79.
Are you?
Yeah. Yeah, this is my 79th year, and I'll be 79 in the spring. And
So that was, when was that, 1918? When were you born?
19.
1919?
1919. Yeah, 1919. And it was just after World War I, came booming in. And I must have been tuned in just right, because I was just ready when World War II. So, man, I just barely got through college, and whang, there came Pearl Harbor Day, and I spent 12 years then in the high explosive plants. 12 years.
Yeah, I remember you saying there was a big explosion sometime that killed lots of people. Some mega explosion.
Oh yeah, I was about as far from that as it would be maybe to the mailboxes.
Yeah.
It was at night, and man, we were all training in this big DuPont TNT plant. It's up in Illinois. Elwood Arsenal was the name, and it was one of the big disasters in within the continental United States. I forget how many people it killed, but I remember that there was at least 10 railroad cars that were just blasted to bits, and it blasted the whole arsenal.
There was a big crater in the ground, was there?
Oh yeah, I never saw that, but it was just a tremendous shock, and we thought that the plant, we didn't know about that arsenal over there. We'd only been there a couple of weeks. We thought the plant had blown up. We just happened to come up for the coffee break. It was in the night shift. It must have been about 3 o'clock in the morning or something like that, 3 or 4. And man, this tremendous old sky just turned orange, and the ground, boy, it just shook. And we were in an old station wagon. We stopped and jumped out and laid down on the ground. We were waiting for the next one. We thought it was probably the plant. It'd go one building at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And then nothing happened. It was as still as death, then nothing happened. And so we went on to the cafeteria, and we soon found out that it was Elwood Arsenal, and it broke windows in Chicago.
How far was that?
Well, that was about 30 miles.
Many tons of TNT. Was it TNT?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mostly all TNT. Not many tons, yeah. And it broke windows. It just shattered windows, and windows were shattered everywhere.
What year was that, Jimmy?
That would have been the Pearl Harbor.
After Pearl Harbor?
That was after Pearl Harbor. I just went to work for Hercules Powder Company, and late in the fall, I got to Wilmington, Delaware, and man, I went up to New York City and had the greatest time, on the weekends. And I was up there on Sunday, and it was December the 7th, 1941, and I was there in Times Square, and they always said that people were mad in Times Square anyway, you know, and of course, coming from a little Midwestern town, like New York was really something to see, and they were mad. They were so excited, I couldn't figure out, boy, how could he be so mad? And then I went out to New Jersey, where one of the boys from the experimental station there had invited me to his people there. They had a home in New Jersey. When I got there, found they hadn't even done any cooking. They were just sitting with their ears in the radio. You know, there was no television, of course, in those days. And this guy said, haven't you heard? I said, no. I said, I saw these people down Times Square, but what? Why, he said, the Japanese just bombed Pearl Harbor, and they'd get a little more of the message, and every one, the damage was worse, you know, and man, it was about 3 weeks when all of us young people were draft eligible. We were all sent out to the to the ordnance plants, and so I was in TNT from then on and then I was in the Navy. I did the same thing. I became a specialist in TNT and TNT-based explosives. And my technical career was pretty destructive. So I always felt very close to Lord Shiva. Occasion to TNT. It's, it's mostly military because it has what they call brisance. You know, it's a nice French word. And brisance is a shattering effect. TNT it shatters. You see, and all the working explosives, they can produce them so they can kind of control the emergent wave, and so it'll lift things. In fact, like smokeless powder, it's what they call a progressive propellant. It will give out a nice even acceleration to a missile.
Okay.
It doesn't have a tremendous hammering effect, but TNT has two great qualities, and that's what makes it such a tremendous military explosive. It has great stability. You can shoot bullets through TNT, and you can even burn it.
So how do you think that place went up?
Well, that's the one thing that it is subjected to, is under certain conditions, if it's shot just right, it will detonate. And that's the way it's all detonated by booster charges. They use DNT and other things. They'll have two different boosters, generally one that detonates a secondary booster, and that'll detonate the primary charge. And that's the way you get it to make a full detonation. Most of the time when it's shocked off by accident, it's what they call a low order explosive, but even that's enough to destroy a lot of things. But to get a real high order detonation, why, you have a booster charge. And that's why it's so good to produce and to store, and it'll remain for a long, long time in a stable condition. And the other part of it is that it's extremely brisant. That is, when it lets go, it just shatters things into splinters. It just destroys them, and that made it a very great explosive. And then later on, when I worked for the Navy in California, that was up in their Navy Naval Test Station, and that was a lot of research scientists and people up there, and they were doing all kinds of things. But in fact, they were making, it was highly classified. That's where I ended, was making a shell for the number 2 atomic bomb. It was the explosive shell that went around. It was a sphere, 2 spheres, and that was made of different derivatives of TNT, and they had to be put together in lenses. They called it, would invert the explosive wave, so they could get the whole thing to come to the center, to critical mass at nearly the same time. They call it simultaneity, and that's the secret that these people sold these. What were their name? Goldbergs, or they have Goldbergs. I think it was sold to the Russians, They sold that whole part, and that's what we were working on here. We saw it all in the paper. It was highly classified, but yet the Russians didn't get that much good out of it because it wasn't anything that had to do with the radioactive part. But that's how highly developed the TNT derivatives and all it became, because all that outer shell was made and machined them. We even machined them with regular machines, and underwater we machined them to the very closest tolerances. So they'd be fit together without a crack. They would just fit together like this, and then they had lens shape, so you would invert the explosive wave, and it was a masterful piece of technology. I think that was a high point of TNT technology. And now I don't know what. I don't think they probably put too much emphasis on that kind of stuff and smokeless powder. And, well, they do. They still have rockets and you know, all kinds of guided missiles that use, but they use liquid, and everything is so bad that let's hope that nobody ever uses one, because. But I don't know. It's quite possible. You know, they say there's going to be some terrible cataclysm.
I know. Well, there's the World Crisis booklet, and so obviously I don't think that would be published if there wasn't going to be something.
Master said he saw something was so terrible he wouldn't talk about it. And you look at those pictures read this article about Russia, you know, and that reactor that blew up, and boy,
Chernobyl, yeah.
Oh, the devastation that caused.
I was over here when that was '86, yeah.
It was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
'86?
Yeah.
Well, I think I'll go get it. Maybe there'll be a little breakfast over there.
Right then, Jimmy, great to see you.
Yeah, it's nice that you came. Where are you going to go from Monterey?
Oh, I'm just going back to LA and then back to Scotland.
Are you?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really nice to have a trip to Northern California.
Yeah. Right then, Jimmy.